This is the 5280 check socket fabrication video for all distal mount pucks. Install 4 cap screws into the distal aspect of the molding dummy. The cap screws can be adjusted in height to vary the distal socket thickness. Be sure you have an air hole through the model leading up to the molding dummy. When pulling the check socket, we recommend using 1/2 inch thick to 5/8 inch thick plastic in a 16 by 16 frame. Use Orfit Trans stiff plastic from Kerbel or Thermalin stiff from Autobach, as these plastics are less prone to failure. PETG or Duraplex can be used, however they are more brittle. Begin by working the plastic down over the model. Gently twist the plastic around the dummy and the positive model. This will help better mold the plastic around the sealing area of the dummy and increase the molecular strength of the plastic. Always be sure to blister form your check sockets for a distal puck system. Drape forming a socket will result in a vacuum leak in the seam area over the molding dummy. Use a flat piece of plastic and firmly press down on the cap screws on the distal end of the socket. This will force the plastic to conform around the screws. There cannot be any webbing of the plastic around the screws, as this results in a much larger hole diameter in the end of the socket. Ensure that the plastic does not bridge from the edge of the cap screw to the base of the molding dummy. Ensure the plastic pull conforms perfectly around the molding dummy in the red zone, which is from the scribed line down to the plaster model. Perfect contact here is critical, as this is where your puck seal will sit. Grind the bottom of the socket down to the cap screws. Ensure the distal thickness is uniform. Mark the center hole in the bottom of the socket. This will be drilled out after the dummy and model have been extracted. Break out the plaster model. Remove all 4 cap screws from the distal aspect of the socket. Verify the thermoplastic conforms perfectly around the proximal edge of the dummy. Install at least 2 40mm screws into the distal aspect of the molding dummy. This will facilitate removal of the dummy. Ensure the screws are even. To remove the molding dummy, simply place the socket on the floor and apply your full body weight. Remove the 40mm screws from the molding dummy. Slide your hand inside the socket to prevent the molding dummy from falling and getting damaged. Inspect the proximal aspect of your sealing area inside the socket. This area should be glass smooth with no imperfections or nylon marks. This will ensure you have an excellent socket seal. Drill out the center hole of your socket with a 1/4 inch drill bit. Use a 1/4 inch to 1/2 step bit to widen the center hole. Bisect the distal aspect of the socket in the orientation you would like to place the charge port. Extend the line upward on the side of the socket wall. Insert a caliper to determine the distal socket thickness. Measure from the distal end of the socket, adding the distal socket thickness plus 3/8 of an inch to determine the center point for the charger hole. The charge port hole should be on center between the Euro 4-hole pattern. This hole will work for your distal puck charge port as well as the air puck valve port. Use a 3/4 inch roto bit from Bulldog Tools or a 3/4 inch step bit to drill out the side hole for the puck. A good alternative to establish a 4-hole pattern in the distal aspect of the socket is to utilize a 4-hole drill guide. To use this tool, it does require a 1/2 inch center hole in the distal aspect of the socket. Simply slide the tool into the distal aspect of the socket, orientate the 4-hole pattern in the line of progression, tighten the distal nut, ensure the pattern is correct, drill out the 4-hole pattern. Once all 4 holes have been drilled out, simply remove the tool and confirm the orientation of your 4-hole pattern. As with the 4-hole pattern in the distal end of the socket, a side hole jig can also be used to establish a perfectly centered side hole for the charge port for both the smart puck and the air puck valve.